Welcome to That Entrepreneur Life, a podcast about entrepreneurship that takes you from idea to launch and beyond. Each week, your hosts, Andrew Lees and Clint McPherson, discuss different business topics aimed at adding value to any entrepreneur's journey.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of That Entrepreneur Life. I'm Andrew Lees. I'm here with my co-host, Clint McPherson. What's up, man? How you doing?
Not much, man. Just excited to be here like always. Excited to kick another week off and to get another episode under our belt, man. And with that said, let's go ahead and kick this thing off by welcoming our special guest, Craig Siegel, to the show. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing phenomenal. I'm excited to be here with you guys today. I'm a fan of you guys, been watching you on social media, and you have my word to your audience and to you guys. We will manufacture magic here today.
Love it.
Let's do it, man. I love manufacturing. I'm a product development engineer. So I have so manufacturing kind of, hits home for me for sure. So yeah, that's really cool. And I think it means that you have some control over it, right? Your mindset and how you go about your life and your business. So that's really cool.
That's right.
So before we dig into a few questions we have in our interview here, can you tell our audience who you are and what you're all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Craig Siegel. I'm a mindset coach, entrepreneur, performance enhancer, and a breakthrough manufacturer. I help clients and students get on absolute fire for life. See, I'm a big believer in that. People are not broken, but often their frames are, and their mindset and their perspective can be corrupted. And by revamping your mindset, you can replace limitations with opportunities. And I just feel that we're all capable of so much more in our life. So I'd like to help people revamp their mindset, get on fire, and fulfill their potential.
Love it, man.
Love that.
I mean, I think you can already tell that you're a motivated individual. You bring that energy that's needed, right, to really snap somebody out of their mindset or their deep, thought process as far as trying to, which a lot of the times gets in their way. But as you started your career, man, on Wall Street, Craig, and now you help people manufacture magic and a successful mindset. Take us back to when your entrepreneurial journey started, brother, and what it is about entrepreneurship specifically that led you to where you are today, my man.
What an unbelievable question. And the truth is I've always had entrepreneurial spirit and like the creative juices flowing ever since I was young. Like I was a hustler. I like to grind and do that sort of thing. But to be honest with you guys, after college, I didn't have a set path. I ended up on Wall Street, which if you're from New York, and you like finance, stuff of that nature, that's typically where you end up. And I had a ton of success there, but ultimately that was just a small piece of my journey. And then after that, the entrepreneurial spirit was flowing and I left Wall Street and I started a new business from the ground up and built that up to 8 figures. And that was a little bit different. We provided working capital to businesses all across the country. But ultimately, all these things were just small components into the grander picture, all puzzle pieces, if you will. And ultimately, when the pandemic happened, it was the first time where I actually had a moment to kind of just pause. Because as you can imagine, running your own businesses on Wall Street, it's always go, go, go. So I finally had a second in the pandemic to just breathe, reassess. And this might sound kind of spiritual and deep, but it is what it is. I'll never sugarcoat it. I heard the whispers and ultimately it was like, of course, my passion was always to help people. And I was always into self-improvement and inspirational stuff. And I was studying neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and the mindset for about 10 years now and just sharpening the axe. And then I realized that not only is this my passion, but now it's my purpose. And so I came up with the idea of CLS, which is Cultivate Lasting Symphony, which is also a play on my initials. And once I figure something out, I'm very decisive. But to be honest with you guys, I never felt so clear in my entire life as I did during this pandemic when this idea came to me to help people and to become a coach and speaker and so forth. And so I hit the ground running, sold out a bunch of programs, and that's kind of what brought us here together today.
That's so cool. And it seems like you really did that. You really got this program up and running really quickly. When was it? Was it sometime during the pandemic? Since last March, where you kind of the light bulb went off and you were like, hey, I'm not really like, were you maybe not 100% fulfilled in what you're doing before? And you, like you said, you had some time to just sit back and think. Is that kind of what happened? And how did you what was really the spark that, that got you going on this?
Yeah, great questions, Andrew. And the truth is a little bit of all the above, right? And I'll be honest with you, at my business that I run with the working capital, although lucrative, I'll just be straight up, I was unfulfilled and I wasn't even happy. It got to the point where like I was going through the motions. Make no mistake about it, I give everything that I do, everything I got. It wasn't for lack of effort, but I just wasn't waking up excited to go provide working capital to businesses. Nothing wrong with people who do that. It just wasn't for me. And then also like this was my rock bottom, so to speak. Like after I left Wall Street and I got to this business, I was in a transition phase. My father had gotten diagnosed with cancer and he's battling and he's doing his thing right now. And also I had gotten out of a 5-year relationship, just a bunch of things at once. And to use a word that you just used, I was unfulfilled. I wasn't happy. And so when the pandemic came, I was in that space where I was looking for the next move, but not like to keep making moves. Like I was looking for that thing that's going to be my life. And ultimately, because I was like in that space and I was sharpening the axe because I had some extra time with the pandemic, it came to me on a run one day, because I love to run, about basically helping people, revamping mindsets. And then I reverse engineered, what I thought this could look like 3 years out. And as soon as I did that, I just went all in. And I knew from immediately, once I had this idea, it was like, of course, the writing has always been on the wall. This is always what I should have been doing. And ultimately, once I started it, the people that are closest to me in the world are like, yes, the writing's been on the wall forever. This makes so much sense. And so I just hit the ground running and I didn't look back.
Well, it seems like you tapped into your intuition though, right? Where a lot of people would not listen to that because it's like, oh, this is not the right time. Let me assess this. Let me doubt it. Let me question it. Let me say no. My mindset's somewhere else. But man, it seems like you tapped into your intuition and early on to take advantage of what's been going on. Not that, COVID was something that, really slowed individuals down. But at the same time, you found a way to actually add value during a time of need where people were struggling, man. So tapping into your intuition, man, I give you kudos for that. And that's awesome, brother.
Thank you, Clint. And just to add to that, the truth of the matter is I got to a point where I said to myself, the only thing worse than taking a shot at this and maybe I don't succeed, the only thing worse is to not take a shot and just keep going down the unfulfilling path that I was going down. And it occurred to me during the pandemic, like that's almost like dying a slow death. And I don't want to sound too dramatic, but like I was waking up every day unfulfilled. I wasn't happy. And like you shouldn't, like everybody should look to identify what fuels their fire and then make it their life if they're able to, or something close to it. And I was nowhere close to that with what I was doing. And so I realized that the worst thing that I could do now that I've identified what I really want to do is not take the shot. So with that being said, it was a no-brainer to me. So I just, I took that swing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, sometimes we get caught up in what we're doing and like what's right in front of us, and things are moving fast and we got our heads down. We're grinding it out, whatever it is. And, and especially if you're making some money and you're doing pretty well, it's like, it's very easy to get stuck in that, right? It's very easy to maybe wake up a few years later and be like, hey, that was successful, but I don't want to do this for another 10, 20, 30 years or whatever. And so what is that thing? And I think the sooner you can figure that out, the better. And I think at the end of the day, if you can make money and really help people in a way that's fulfilling to you, it's like, I think there's nothing more powerful than that, because then you're just, in all business, in some way you're providing value or you're helping people. But man, when you can get somebody excited about what they're doing, that's really cool.
And also real quickly, just to touch on that, I think that I strongly believe if you can really identify what your passion is and also purpose and really identify that, you'll figure out a way to make it work where you can monetize it because you're passionate about it. You'll figure it out.
100%.
I totally agree. Yeah. So what's interesting is a lot of times business consultants and coaches, they're trying to help business owners and leaders improve particular metrics, KPIs, that drive success. in the business, and a lot of them are like numbers driven, but instead you're focusing on helping someone's mindset. I mean, why do you think that's so important to get that right first? And why is it a lot of times underrated?
That's such a great question, my friend. And the truth of the matter is I think that the mind is everything in the world. It'll make or break you. And, you can have good ideas, but if you're not mentally tough, if you haven't like expanded your map of the world, ultimately at the first obstacle or challenge, there's a good chance that you'll cave or, you'll be intimidated. But once your mindset is right, once you understand what you're capable of, you have tangible techniques that you could use, that I study and teach, such as modeling, anchoring, techniques where you can elevate your state, so to speak. Once you have that, it's not what can I do, it's what can't I do. And ultimately, like, it's not the same exact thing, but it's like having a ton of confidence. Like, when you're in an elevated state or you're so confident, you feel like there's something that you can't do, like you're unstoppable, bring it on, so to speak. But if you go into something that's obviously going to have obstacles, because anything really worth doing is going to provide challenges. If you're not mentally tough, if you don't have that grit and that perseverance and that confidence level, there's a good chance that you won't be able to push through those obstacles. So that's why I believe that the mindset is everything. And I think that the mind is the biggest tool we could possibly have. And I'll just give you a quick example. Last year, I got into running, which was never my thing. I was always into just kind of like lifting weights, clanging and banging. And once I got into running, I was so mesmerized by the fact that it was so mental. I couldn't believe it, because like the first time I ran a mile, I was so humbled that I was gasping for air after 1 mile without stopping. And then I was like, wait a minute, was I really physically tired, or is that voice in my head owning me?
Right.
So
just telling you to stop.
Right. So once I established that, I ended up running 4 marathons that year. And I PR'd last year 3:39 in Philly, which is pretty good for anyone, but specifically me. But I believe I did that not because of physicality, but because of the mindset. So just a good example as to why I believe the mind is everything.
Yeah, you have to have your mindset ready to run, right? I mean, that is something that can defeat you quickly if you're not in the right mindset. I was in the military, so I've ran a lot of miles, man. And a lot of the times when I would head into a run with my soldiers, they would know how far we were going to run, but they would always be mentally defeated right off the bat. If they knew we were going to run 4 miles, 6 miles, 10 miles, whatever it was, they were just like, sir, why are we doing this? Right? Like they were already, instead of just running, embracing the challenge, embracing what's in front of you and just doing it. I mean, because it's like when you get over that mental hurdle, right? There's always that mile marker if you're a runner that you struggle with, whether that's mile 1 for a lot of people, mile 2, 3, or 4. I mean, some of them hit a wall, right? And then you're like, dude, but once you break through that wall, you can just keep going. In the marathon, like I was telling the people, like if you could run a half marathon, if you could run 9 to 10 miles, you could run a full marathon. It's all about the mindset and to keep going and to always know the pace that you're going to carry. Try to keep that mindset and continue to go on, because again, it's a mental block that defeats a lot of us. I mean, there's individuals that run these things like these ultra marathons, man, and they just keep going because again, they know they've tapped into the brain, brother. They know how to continue to push on and get to that goal that they're set out to hit. And it's one of those things that's very inspiring. And like you just said, man, the mindset is so powerful in what you can achieve. And again, it's not about, if you're going to do it, it's just when, or how. Like my thing is like at the end of the day, if you know how you're going to accomplish something and you come in with the right mindset and you're confident, you're going to get it done, man. And I just like that. It's just, again, man, that we're talking about the mind and again, trying to open people's mind, because again, if we can train ourselves to be confident, if we can train ourselves to know that we're going to succeed, and there's nothing in this world that can, not let us succeed other than ourselves, man, that right there is, again, 95 to 100% of the battle, if you think about it.
Amen, brother. And you see the smile on my face because you're speaking directly to my soul. You speak my language. I agree with every single thing that you just said. I love it. I
mean, who are the mentors in your life, Craig, that have helped you guide and motivate you, brother? How would you recommend to someone in finding a mentor that can help them on their personal and business journey, man?
Great question. So I get asked this question often, and one thing that I teach in my program early on is to find someone that you hold in high regard and write down some of their attributes so that you can model them to elevate your confidence. Let me just be clear, not take their persona on, but just like someone who has something that you can utilize maybe to gain more confidence. Like, for example, I've said numerous times when I first started on Wall Street, I was an introvert. I didn't have confidence. So someone that I would model would be '007 James Bond, because that guy doesn't care about anything. He's just super confident, super assertive, and it worked wonders for me. So when you ask me who my mentors are, it's interesting because when I first started studying NLP and all about the mind, I worked with someone who taught me this stuff. And then from there, I kind of taught myself the rest. So that guy, this gentleman by the name of Sean, who I have a close relationship with, helped me understand NLP. And then I took it from there. But ultimately, mentors don't just have to be people you work with, right? Like, who do I sharpen the axe to? Like, I have journals full of people who just get me excited from all walks of life, whether it be Arnold Schwarzenegger or, a UFC fighter or a specific athlete or anybody that's just done cool things that I look up to. I'll write them in a journal and I'll write down some of their traits that I find to be, useful that I could utilize. So I have journals all over my dining room table of people that I like to model for different reasons. And I know it's not the sexiest answer, but the truth is I've used the world as my playground. I've taken bits and pieces from so many different people. So I don't necessarily have one mentor. I like to take a bit from everybody.
I feel you, man.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've never actually had a mentor, that I could work like side by side with, which I think would be great. I think that would be really cool if you can find that. I think throughout my journey, I've thought that there were a couple people who would be like that, but then they didn't really, turn out to maybe know as much as I thought about what I wanted to know. But yeah, you're right. I think, you can definitely just find inspiration, and not only inspiration, but learn from people who are, who you see who are, especially now, putting content out there about how to do certain things, like, hey, this is my, I started this successful business and this is kind of like how I did it. Or, maybe it's not like the full story, right? But you get bits and pieces and you can kind of understand, what you might have to do to get to that point. And yeah, a lot of it really does end up being mindset anyway. I was listening to some guy, he was a billionaire doing something. I don't remember what it was. But at one point he realized, he was like, all I have to do is work hard, and then I can get this. Like, I can do that all day long. I can do that and figure things out along the way. And if it's like something that simple and basic, where it's just like, all I have to do is keep pushing through whatever it is that's in front of me, that's it. So I think it's cool to be able to get different bits and pieces from different entrepreneurs and figure out how and not just entrepreneurs, but maybe athletes, actors, whatever,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And just to add to that, I'm a big believer in someone could have a mentor, such as myself, or a coach in certain things, just to help them get over the hump. Because sometimes things have to be communicated in such a way that it makes you want to be better. And like I always say, like, I don't believe anyone really needs to be fixed, but their mindset could be corrupted because they're conditioned a certain way for so long. So if you could find someone that could help you kind of revamp your mindset, that's priceless as well. So just for the audience listening, it doesn't have to be celebrities or historical figures or whatever the case may be. Whatever works for you, as long as they're able to help you improve.
100%. Yep.
I think it comes down to the checks and balances, right? That a coach can provide, or somebody it's basically gives you another perspective on things. And again, like you just said, you can be so conditioned in the way you've done things, or so conditioned in how you were raised, or what you've been exposed to, that you don't even realize there's a better way. You don't even realize that a simple change that you can make on a daily basis, or again, just adjusting your mindset to, or allowing yourself to get to a specific point during the day or during a specific time of the day, how much just that simple switch or that simple focus could really provide you clarity and send you off and basically like in a damn rocket ship, man, and take you to places that you didn't imagine you can go. You know what I'm saying?
I love you guys. You guys are great, because I couldn't agree more with you guys. People think change takes so long. It doesn't. It's literally like being unplugged from the matrix, so to speak, like being awakened. Like you just have to see things from a different perspective. And sometimes it's as simple as like literally tilting your head and just saying, wait a minute, if I look at this from a different perspective, from a different light, maybe everything changes, right?
Yep.
Like that's what it's all about. It's not, what you look at, it's what you see, so to speak. And it doesn't take as long as people think. There's tools and techniques to help you recondition and kind of give yourself a whole new outlook on a situation, and everything changes. I love that you said that.
And Craig, that you just mentioned, there's some tools. Brother, we got some listeners, and I know this would be very interesting to them. What are some things that they can action, like some actionable items that they can do right now to just do that simple switch in their mindset, some mind hacks per se, that maybe you can drop some knowledge here that really doesn't, obviously you're not giving away your coaching courses for free or whatever, but like some simple things that you could drop down, like, so we can even action ourselves after this episode, man.
Yeah. Unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable question. So the modeling that I spoke about earlier is a great one. I use it to this day. So like if you're going into a certain situation or maybe something that you don't have experience with, you can model someone that's done it or has a ton of confidence, and then it'll take the thinking out of it. I'll just give you a quick example about that one. Recently I had to make a big masterclass presentation in front of a few hundred people on a Zoom. And it was the first time I was speaking in front of that many people on a Zoom. It's like a few hundred people. And so naturally someone might have a little bit of, nerves or get a little anxious, kind of like I do the night before a marathon. Even though I'm prepared, you never really know. So I modeled a gladiator, specifically Russell Crowe from the movie, in his arena. So when it came time to make the presentation, I wasn't nervous because I was a gladiator. This was my arena. I felt very comfortable in my arena. And I was just so confident and comfortable and smooth. And that really worked for me because it took the thinking out of it. Because here I was basically modeling, Russell Crowe or the gladiator. Other tools that you could utilize is this. And this is on a deep level. A lot of people have trouble growing because they have shackles on. Maybe it's from a past relationship or past experience. They look at those things, the relationship or experience, as pain, and they can't let it go. So what I would suggest to you guys or the audience is this. You can change the pattern of what emotion you tie to something. For example, if you have an ex that you got to have a nasty breakup from, maybe a divorce, and they're really weighing on you because whenever you think of them, you think of resentment. That can be very heavy. That can hold you down. By looking at the situation from a different light, I'm not saying the ex has to be pleasure, but maybe now they're all of a sudden they're irrelevant. They don't have that much power over you anymore. They're not pain and resentful. They're just there, no emotion tied to it. All of a sudden you're light and free and you can do other things. And and let's just say like you're similar to the modeling thing, but back to what you associate pain and pleasure to. Let's say you have to make a big presentation in front of a company or something of that nature. Instead of looking that as anxious or nerves or anxiety, you can look at it as, wow, this is an unbelievable opportunity for me to shine and thrive. And now instead of going into that with nerves, now all of a sudden you walk into that with a ton of confidence because you're excited about the challenge in front of you. They seem very simple, these mindset hacks, but they're extremely effective.
Yeah, I think having that excitement really helps, right? I mean, if you can be excited about something, like I've thought that before about just talking to a client or, talking to a potential client who I've never talked to before. Sometimes it's like, I have no idea what their project is. I have no idea how I can help them. So it's a little bit like I'm just sort of walking in blind, and there can be some nerves with even something as simple as that. But if I kind of feel myself like get excited about talking about, product development and helping this person along their journey. And even if their project, it just doesn't work out and they don't move forward with a project, I still feel good about hopefully giving them some insight into product development. And I'm like, if they took anything out of that and they learned anything, even if they learned that they're not ready to move forward, then I'm like, it changes the whole thing, and it makes it so much easier to be able to do that over and over and over again.
Yeah, I love that. Very well said. I totally agree with that.
So Craig, throughout your entrepreneurial journey, from the highs to the lows, what's been the most difficult thing, do you think, about being an entrepreneur?
You know what? I think in the beginning, this is still all relatively new to me to an extent because I started in the pandemic. I'm very fortunate and humbled that I've had so much success so quickly. I know it always doesn't work out like that. I think one of the things that, are tough is that when you're an entrepreneur, there's so many challenges and obstacles, and obviously we can look forward to them, but there's a lot of unpredictability and uncertainty. And I'll give you an example. Like when I first launched my program, after a couple months of telling the world what I was doing, which is coaching and helping people revamp their mindsets, I basically was creating that Hollywood hype. Just like a big movie's coming out, I put out a trailer, basically a video of me telling the world, like, get ready, I'm dropping my moonshot masterpiece experience program soon. And then I launched it, and I was very fortunate that people came knocking on my door right away, and I sold that right away. And then it happened a second time too. But I think just going into that, like, it could be a little bit scary. But listen, all the great things worth doing in life are scary. So, I don't shy away from that. But I think just the unpredictability is, you never really know how people will resonate to your message, right? Because even though, like, we're our own testimonials and stuff like that, like, all three of us have done extraordinary and great and impressive things, which means that we are our own testimonial. You still need to be able to communicate it in such a way, in such a compelling manner, that people want to gravitate towards us and work with us. So up until I dropped my program, I didn't know exactly what I was going to get, but I'm very fortunate to say it ended up being a home run. But I think that's probably one of the scariest things, is just when you get up to that plate and you're about to take that swing, you don't exactly know what's going to happen. But even though it's scary, it's also exhilarating as well.
It's like the vulnerability that you set yourself up for too, though. With right. That comes just being human, being vulnerable, has you on that edge, right? Has you on the, like, it's the fear of the unknown per se. But at the end of the day, once we get past that and just release it, take that risk, take that leap of faith, and embrace it as entrepreneurs, man, it totally, again, is one of those things to where that right there is a total mind shift in itself, and will allow you to do bigger and better things. And when you go forward and you throw something out there, but you build anticipation too, right, for your product, it wasn't, hey, here it is. You build anticipation through your trailer, like taking a movie, like a movie premiere, man. Like, you build anticipation, like the Avengers is coming out, bro. Like, that's something it. That people can relate to, and they get hyped up. They're like, oh, okay, Craig, good job. Let's see what you got, man. Bring it to the table. And then you step up to the plate. You're that much more confident because you put in the work. You actually did the course. You actually, got in front of the camera. You recorded. You built that trailer. You took all these chances. And now when you get up to the plate, brother, it's like, all right, you're relaxed, you're cool, calm, collective. You might be a little bit nervous because, again, it's your first time up to bat. But, dude, when you drop it, again, comes through, you hit it out of the park, man. And again, it doesn't work that way for everybody. And if you fail at the beginning, that doesn't mean give up, right? No. You might have not have approached it the right way. You might have not have built the proper anticipation, because there's so many people that me and Andrew know that have pop a product out or come up with something and just drop it on the table and think it's going to happen, bro. It's not Field of Dreams, brother. You don't build it and they come. You have to build anticipation around it, and then actually, taunt it and get it in front of people and solve a problem. And the next thing you know, boom, then it's successful, right?
Yeah. Such great points. Everything that you just said speaks to my soul. I love it all. And I want to add this to that. I was prepared to fail at the launch, because all I've heard, all the research I did, is everyone fails the first couple launches. They have to rebrand and so forth. But just like you just said, I wasn't going to pivot and give up. I was prepared to see what didn't work and then refine it and eventually make it work. So I went in there being okay with the fact that I might not fly the first time, but I'm resourceful enough to figure it out. And when you have that type of confidence and vulnerability, and you know that it's okay if you don't hit it the first time because you'll figure it out. Just like I wanted to break 4 hours in the marathon, because that's a thing in the running world, is right. Sub 4 hours. Took me a third try. And I like to brag about that, because I failed the first 2 times to break 4 hours. Third time I broke it, fourth time I shattered it. But when I launched CLS, my first program, I was prepared to face any challenges and obstacles that came my way. And by having that vulnerability, I think it just gives a tremendous amount of inner self-belief and confidence that you can deal with anything that comes your way. I love that you said that.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. And so strategically, was there anything that you did, or what, because obviously you did something, but what did you do to build that audience and build that excitement, besides making a trailer? Like, making the trailer, kind of making the preview of the program is one thing, but how did you build that audience to begin with? Did you already have something? Or
no. So I didn't have anything on social media. Great question. And here's the truth. when I decided that this is 100% my purpose as well as my passion to help people, I was very clear that I was in alignment and this was my vision. And so I did something uncharacteristic of me because, believe it or not, I'm a little bit shy and an introvert. And I put out a video to the world on my Facebook and my Instagram, any social media that I had, basically saying, this is who I am, this is what I've been through, and this is what I'm going to do moving forward. And I'm building a brand that I call Cultivate Lasting Symphony. And it's about getting people on fire, getting them that edge and helping people revamp their mindsets. And once I did that, it was like I was having the world hold me accountable. Now there's no backing out. And it's similar to it. This is a similar approach I took to the second scariest thing I ever did was run my first marathon, because I had no business running a marathon at that point. I had only run a few miles, and I was like, I'm going to run the New York City Marathon 2 years ago. So I told the world I was going to do it. And then I was like, there's no backing out now. And so because I had that experience by having the world hold me accountable and how powerful that is, to answer your question in a nutshell, I put out a video, and you guys can find it. It wasn't so long ago. It's a video on my social media feeds, probably around July. It's me in a nice, cute purple button down, basically just sitting here telling the world what I'm about to do. And then I created a little bit of a logo to go with CLS. And then I just started putting out content that was in alignment with my brand. For example, motivational quotes, inspirational videos of me talking about different subjects, mindset hacks, that people can get value from, and so forth. And so for a month or two, people saw what I was doing, and I'm very happy to say that they gravitated towards the message. I think they could tell, I'm humble. I was doing it for the right reasons. And then after a month or so, when it was ready to go, I put out that trailer for the Avengers, aka my first program. And, a month later we launched. And then the rest, as they say, is history. I did 2 back-to-back. Then I did a mastermind. Now I have my CLS Experience podcast, which just launched 2 weeks ago today, 18,000 downloads in the first 8 days. And so, everything kind of just caught fire, but I went all in. But just to come full circle, to answer your question, told the world what I was going to do. And in my head, can't back out now because they're going to hold me accountable. It's going to be embarrassing if I go backwards. So this is it. Burn the ships. No retreat. No safety net. Let's do this.
Awesome, dude.
That's cool. That's a good way to do it, I think. And it also, like you said, you talked about being vulnerable. It helps you be vulnerable and just be out there. I think people respond to that, especially now with social media the way that it is, and how the barriers have been sort of dropped, and people are looking for more authentic, more vulnerable, more just raw. So I think it's a perfect time to just do that and get in front of a mic and a camera and just say, hey, here's what I'm doing. And then just give some tips as you go along and just help people out, and they'll catch on.
It's so true. And let's be honest, don't we all gravitate towards vulnerable figures? Like, sure. I mean, maybe everyone has a different opinion, but like with superheroes, like, for me, Superman was never the coolest because he was so invincible. Like, it wasn't really relatable. I always kind of liked an underdog or someone that had an arc or a story where it was like, that guy's been through some stuff or that girl's been through some stuff. And what makes you vulnerable, like own your story. Like, the parts of your story that you thought were the ugliest actually might be the most beautiful for the audience, because it shows that you have tough skin and that you've been through some stuff. So I totally agree with you. Being real, raw, and authentic, I think, is the key to have an audience.
So Craig, as we wrap up this episode, my man, it's been a pleasure. If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, man, and you could have already touched on it, what would that be?
In a nutshell, life's too short not to try. If the pandemic taught us anything, it's just how unpredictable life can be. And you have to identify what fuels your fire, what makes you happy, what you're passionate about, maybe your purpose, and then figure out a way to make that your life and go all in. Because, not to sound too deep, but tomorrow isn't guaranteed. We just saw what happened over the last year. It's been kind of wild, and there's no more wasting time. Find the thing you love, make it your life, go all in. And as entrepreneurs, as us three are, and I'm sure your audience as well, we'll figure out a way to make it work. Guarantee it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Well, guys, I mean, Craig, I think that's a wrap for this episode. But from the both of us, brother, we want to thank you for taking the time into your day and helping us add value in what we're doing on our podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm a big fan of both of you, and I can honestly say this will definitely not be the last time we collaborate.
Sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, we love to hear that and love all the stuff that you're doing, man. Thank you all so much for listening to That Entrepreneur Life. To learn more about what Craig is working on, check out cultivatelasting-symphony.com. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to our podcast and don't forget to download our free ebook at thatentrepreneurlife.com. Also, if you're interested in having us do some mini masterclass episodes this year, please let us know. Reach out to us through our website and let us know about that.
Thanks for continuing to support what we do as entrepreneurs. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode of That Entrepreneur Life.
Thanks for listening to That Entrepreneur Life podcast. Be sure to visit thatentrepreneurlife.com to join the conversation, access our show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode as we continue to add value. Until next time.